Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson Football Channel. Yesterday in the 6 Things We Learned video from Real Madrid 2, Chelsea 0, I said the tie is over. I am going to try and come up with something a bit more positive now that I've had a bit more sleep after the game, watching a football match and seeing Chelsea play that badly. When you were that excited for it, tends to leave the brain feeling ever so slightly more dejected than, let's say, a 3 o'clock Saturday afternoon kickoff. Chelsea were poor, and every person who I have seen speak about this game has said Chelsea are bloody lucky to still mathematically be in the tie. If Real Madrid get 3, Chelsea have got absolutely zero chance. But the fact it was only 2, and there were moments and opportunities that arose for Chelsea yesterday, to expect Chelsea to score any opportunities at the moment is poor from anyone expecting that. If you genuinely think Chelsea will get one-on-one with the goalkeeper and put it in the back of the net, you're crazy. You've not been watching football. And that's exactly where we're at right now. And this Real Madrid game, against the team who we know, what they do, Real Madrid, is they see what they're up against, especially in the Champions League. This is why they're so good. Real Madrid look at what they're playing against, which is why in the early phases of games against Real Madrid, you get chances. And as soon as they figure out what shape it's going to be, where the majority of players are going to be spending most of their time, and they just try and suck the life out of you from that point onwards. Real Madrid want you to become predictable so that it takes them less time to figure out what they're up against. And that is why they are the best club, or the best team, in the world at doing exactly that. Is there any way, in the process of the next 6 days, this is the craziest thing about this, right? Chelsea are now officially on their worst run since I was born. December 1993 was the last time that Chelsea went 4 matches in a row without scoring a goal. It is at a point now where we have hit the lowest point we could possibly be at. It doesn't get any bleaker than this. To know going into that match against Real Madrid that we needed a miracle before this game. But after what I saw last night, you've got probably the most well put together team in Europe. Let's be honest, this team have played together for so long. The players that they've brought in recent years have made them stronger, and they've been players that they needed, not necessarily what Chelsea have done, which is just to go out there and try and buy a whole new squad and just hope that it works. There's a massive difference between this Real Madrid team and this Chelsea team. And every single Real Madrid player, even though you could argue, right, when you've got Camavinga, who's actually a fabulous left back, by the way, left wing back, whatever he was playing yesterday. He was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So well drilled, knew what his job was, progressed up the pitch well, but then was disciplined in his defending. Dani Carvajal gets the assist where Vinny hits it. Kepa obviously gifts it to Benzema because that's what Kepa does. Real Madrid go 1-0 up. Dani Carvajal, I thought was going to be their weak link, but we never saw Mudryk on the pitch. As well as that, Reece James down the other side is not the Reece James that we have become so used to at Chelsea. And I'm going to talk about Reece today because for me, he was probably the worst player out there for us. And it's unfortunate because when you look at Camavinga being used in this new role of his, and you look at Dani Carvajal, you could think, right, okay, Ben Chilwell and Reece James, many consider to be one of the top fullback, wing-back duos in world football. Chelsea revert back to a 3 at the back, which gives us a 5-3-2 for this game. We came to counter-attack, and in the first 3 minutes, it almost paid off perfectly. But then, Real Madrid do what Real Madrid do. And they figured us out, and then it became easier for them to influence the game. And they never had to enter beyond second gear because Chelsea have got 1, and we rev the engine, and it just revs. And before you know it, we're out of fuel, and we don't know where to go. We can't move, we can't get out. And I think that is the best way I can figuratively think about how Chelsea played last night. We can't get out of first gear because the other gears don't exist, which enables good quality teams to absolutely enjoy playing us. It's like a training ground exercise. Frank Lampard, let's talk about him for a second, shall we? He got the lineup spot on. I think when you look at the players available, going with a 3-5-2, which pretty much is going to be sitting at a 5-3-2 against Real Madrid at the Bernebeu, It's what I thought was going to happen, something very close to what I thought was going to happen. And I think it's smart, to expect Chelsea to be the kind of team to go and blow Real Madrid away with the lack of confidence, with the recent results, with pure incapabilities that we have in front of goal right now. To go there and dominate and play attacking football is going to get you slaughtered. We're kind of at the point right now where we're a beef tartare for Real Madrid to snack on for a starter, and we're not quite at the T-bone for them to demolish yesterday, which is the positive, I guess you could say. I'm going to talk about how we can win at Stamford Bridge in a moment, but for Frank, I think he did everything he could well. I think when we actually went down to 10 men, you don't expect anything from that point from the match from Chelsea. And to limit Real Madrid to only 2 goals means that there is a glimmer here. There is a glimmer of hope. When Chelsea at the moment, we are looking for every little detail to go correctly right now. We need it because when you're not playing like a team, when players are playing void of confidence, and with a manager who is an interim coming up against one of the best, if not maybe the best manager ever, in Carlo Ancelotti. Many people argue that, and I would absolutely argue a case for it. I think what Chelsea need to do is we need to keep going back to basics again and again and again here. That's the only way we're going to get anything from this. We need to do all of the basics correctly. We need to pass the ball. We need to be so well disciplined, and we also need an element of luck here. And I think in this kind of scenario, Stamford Bridge next week has got a one-off opportunity. If I'm realistic with the way the club is going, the way things have been in the last year, this could be our last Champions League game for a couple of years. That is me being as bluntly honest about our situation as I possibly can, because from what I'm seeing at the moment, we're done as a team. This is as far away from a football team as you could possibly be, and now we're starting to see that we're struggling with FFP. So some way or another, this squad, even though we're going to trim it down massively, this squad has got to come together and work at some point. So for now, whilst Frank is still easing his way back in, whilst the players are semi-playing for one another, I say semi because I really don't think some of them are at the moment. Some of the movement yesterday, communication is off, everything is off from this Chelsea team. And more than anything else, the passion. Where on earth is the passion? And Stamford Bridge, the reason it gives us a chance is because there were only a couple of thousand inside the giant Bernebeu in the heavens last night. Whereas at the Bridge, we can make it intimidating. We can go and do everything we can as fans, everything the team can, to make sure that we make it as psychologically difficult for the most experienced club in Europe as we possibly can. Do I think we're going to do that? Probably not. We can only hope and pray. At this point, I genuinely think it's got to a point where it's only hoping and praying now that's going to get us anywhere. And being optimistic, getting excited, I can't do it. I really can't do it. And the only reason I've given up on this Chelsea team is because it looks as though the players have given up. The moment the players start looking around, chasing shadows, not giving 100%. No one can say last night they gave 100%. They really can't, apart from maybe Thiago Silva and Koulibaly. But let's start the player ratings now. Kepa gets a 4.5. I started and I was like, okay, 2.5. If you make 8 saves, then okay, maybe we could have lost 10-0. But the 2 goals that Chelsea concede, Kepa's got to do better. Kepa needs to save and prevent, at least, both of those goals. The one for Asensio, that's the kind of one where you can accept saving it the way he did for Benzema. To just simply palm it out into Benzema's path within the 6-yard box is absolutely criminal. And to think I've actually sat in this chair in different rooms and said, yeah, Kepa's doing all right, he could have made this number 1 spot his own. He's not at the level that Chelsea Football Club need. And I'm going to do a video in a lot of depth, either this week or the beginning of next, where I talk about the players that Chelsea need to sell. But on face value, too many errors, costing too many goals, and not at the level that Chelsea need for a top number 1 goalkeeper. Wesley Fofana, one of my favourite players in this Chelsea team, giving him a 5, played the full 90 minutes, got an early yellow card, which made it difficult for him. But the one thing I'll say about Fofana is he still tried to get out from the back, didn't he? He was still trying to make runs, still trying to make something happen. And I think overall, when I watch back extended highlights of the game and I think back to what I was seeing, Chelsea didn't defend that badly. It's simply Kepa and the wing-backs being non-existent when they're usually our best players. So Wesley Fofana gets a 5. I think at moments the occasion got to him, and Vinicius Jr. when Reece James had lost Vinny and Fofana was then the last man. Vinny is so good, and what he does so well is the stop-start. And I think Wesley Fofana's not used to playing against a player who is not only that quick, but is that smart technically to be able to know when to start, to stop, to keep going, to take him on, to cut inside. Vinicius Jr. at the moment is the best winger in world football, period. Moving into Kalidou Koulibaly, only managed to play 55 minutes, and then we saw disaster class Cucurella. Koulibaly up until that point, I thought was actually pretty good, to be fair. Made 3 clearances, 1 big interception and tackle. I gave him a 7, and I'm not entirely sure on the nature of how bad that injury is going to be for us, but Koulibaly is hit and miss, and I think this was one of those games where he did okay. Thiago Silva, now that was a funny one, wasn't it? Like, gets a 7 out of 10 from me. 1 big interception to clear the ball off the line. Played 76 minutes, and I think what Frank was doing there is when Real Madrid play the way they do, the longer the game goes on, even if they're still in second gear, they're still going to pummel you. They're still going to come at you. And at 2-0, what Lampard has done with this Thiago Silva substitution is know that Thiago is one of those players 1 yellow card away from suspension, and just make sure that he can play. Just be sure that Thiago Silva can start, because when you start taking Ben Chilwell out there, you've got Koulibaly with what looks like a hamstring injury. You take Thiago Silva out of that back line as well, and the 1% glimmer of hope that we're talking about diminishes into a big fat 0. And he's also just been injured for 7 games. So good 76 minutes from Silva, and once more we see just how key he is to this Chelsea team. Ben Chilwell, 2.5. It could have been worse. 74% pass accuracy. Poor crossing once again when he got the chance. 59 minutes, and at the Bernebeu, a moment of sheer lunacy, idiocy, means that Chelsea have to play with 10 men. And this is the frustrating thing. And the what if, right? Whenever we do a Chelsea match review, we always, straight after, there isn't much time for me to talk about what ifs because I don't get to see everything back. I don't listen to the press conferences. I don't see the extended highlights and watch parts of the game back. What if Ben Chilwell doesn't get sent off? Would Real Madrid have scored again? But then would they have gone ahead and scored again after that if Chelsea only had 11 players on the pitch, or if they had their full 11? So for that, to lose 2-0, we didn't create anything after that moment apart from the last ditch block from flipping Rudiger of all people, who comes back, and if it just finishes 2-1, Chelsea have robbed Real Madrid to even have a chance. But Chilwell sending off to me changed the game completely. It absolutely gave us no hope. You know, when you're playing with no confidence, we keep talking about no confidence, but you've got to be smarter in these moments. You've got to understand the repercussions of your actions, particularly in European football, where referees will give cards, yellows or reds, for the smallest little thing. And as much as, you know, he stopped Rodrigo being in on goal and you can't expect Kepa to save it because he doesn't do that, I still think it would have been better if he'd have let him have the chance. He's still got a lot to do from that position. Poor from Ben. Reece also gets a 2.5. 79% passing accuracy, but there's no risk-taking. And what has made Chelsea dangerous in the past is the risk-taking ability of Ben Chilwell and Reece James, because oppositions have got so many more attacking players to worry about, but they've got to focus on winning the ball off of the wing-backs before they play the final ball. Reece James, I don't think he got beyond Camavinga and Vinicius Jr. once. Not of note anyway, not that I can remember. It says here there were 2 crosses. When you look at the heat map, he's playing so far out wide. And that was the difference between Chelsea and Real Madrid. Chelsea were trying to stretch the pitch, but Real Madrid didn't need to. Real Madrid did not need to use that much width. So what it allowed was Camavinga, Carvajal just came out, dispossessed them, get the ball back in the middle to Kroos, Modric or Valverde, and pass Chelsea to death. That's all they had to do yesterday. Awful from Reece. And I put it on Twitter, I said, perhaps he does need to underdo that surgery, because a lot of what we're seeing at the moment from Reece is probably a lack of confidence due to the constant reoccurring of these injuries. So maybe it's time for surgery. Got Malo Gusto coming in the summer. Premier League is over for us. So if we do get knocked out next Tuesday, why not just call it a day for Reece's season now and try something else? Because it doesn't really matter at this point. Mateo Kovacic gets a 3 out of 10. Spent the majority of the game chasing shadows, is an absolute shell. A player like Luka Modric, Toni Kroos, Federico Valverde was absolutely everywhere. Luka Modric everywhere. Covering ground, but with the ball. Kovacic wasn't covering the ground with the ball and was rarely winning it back either. So it was one of the worst performances I've seen from Kovacic. And for me, he'd be lucky to even keep his place. And I want to see Chukwuemeka in the team against Brighton at the weekend. Enzo Fernandez, 6 out of 10, 85% pass accuracy again. Had the most touches of the ball of any Chelsea player. Played the full 90 minutes again. I think Chelsea at the moment, we're trying and putting too much pressure on Enzo. And I think it is testament to just how good he is. That even when he's not playing well, he is still a class above the majority of players that Chelsea have out there on the field. That is mad to think about. And yesterday, he was trying to do that switch pass. But then again, as soon as Reece got it, he'd go back to the centre-back again. And it's just recycling. And then there was no Ben Chilwell for the last half an hour of the game. So for Enzo, I feel sorry for him. I really do. People aren't showing for him. The forwards, bloody hell. Like, can we just play a game with no forwards? Start all the centre-backs. Get Badiashile and Trev up front. Do it, because all of the forwards at this club stink. They absolutely stink. N'Golo Kante, I gave a 7. Not really on the ball very much. Couldn't get himself involved. He was hugging over to that right-hand side because I think Reece needed support. We were worried about Camavinga getting forward, worried about Vinicius Jr. So it kind of marked Kante out the game just because he was chasing shadows again. But when he was on the ball, he created Chelsea's best opportunities. He wins the ball back in the middle and gives us a chance to counter. So for that reason, the passes, the touches that Kante had were far more useful than what Kovacic was doing. And you could even argue Enzo as well. Maybe I'm too kind, but he's still coming back from injury. And he was everywhere, once again. We move Raheem Sterling, 65 minutes played, 3 out of 10. I don't want to see him near the team this weekend. I don't want to see Raheem Sterling anywhere near the team against Brighton. And I don't want to see him near the team next week to start against Real Madrid. He's lost the ability to take players on. He doesn't beat Eder Militao to the ball in the first half. It's a fabulous reaction save from Courtois. No weak wrist, by the way, for Thibaut Courtois. Tips it around the post. Did all he needed to do in the game. Sterling didn't impose himself one bit. He wasn't showing for the ball. He wasn't moving around. And I think all Chelsea attackers right now, we're so void of ideas in the final third. We're seeing the same elements, the same traits from the forward players, which is the half-assed jog to try and win the ball back, because positionally, Raheem Sterling wants to be out wide, but he's playing through the middle as one of two strikers. And if we look at Joao Felix as well, came off at the same time. Frank Lampard at least saw in this game yesterday that Chelsea weren't creating anything. It was flukes. Joao Felix with a shot in the first 3 minutes of the first, shot in the first 3 minutes of the second half, both on target. When we have got the ball in defence or in the wing-back positions, there's no one in the middle connecting that front line. And in my opinion, in this game against Real Madrid, that is on the fault of the front line for not moving, for not getting involved. We need to see them busting a gut right now, busting a bollock just to get back, like put some effort in. That's all we want to see. And if we see effort and we see running and we see chasing down, don't give Real Madrid time on the ball. Don't respect them. We're in their home. We're in their backyard. Play. That is more respectful than what we did last night. Not even enabling Real Madrid to get out of second gear. They didn't need to. They were beaten at home at the weekend from going in front. They lost to Villarreal. Chelsea have done well against Villarreal in recent times. I think last season we beat them. We have got to start improving. Marc Cucurella gets a 2. This guy is not Chelsea level. He really isn't. And considering we just signed him, I don't think he's going to be sold. But to believe that we may lose Ian Maatsen again because we spent 60 million on this bloke who's now worth about 20, I'm not even exaggerating here. People say, oh, you've got to give him time. He's nearly had an entire season at this football club. And he's only played about 2 decent matches the whole time. At the end of this season, I'm going to look at all of the 6 things we learnt videos and tally up who's got the most greens, who's got the most reds. Cucurella's going to be up there. It was poor. Lampard I've given a 7, just because I think we can be happy with the starting 11 that he chose. I don't think he could have done much more, considering he's been in the job 1 week. We have lost 2. We have not scored in 4 matches, the worst run since December 1993. But I'm saying this now because I'm the other side of the world and it's easy for me to say. If you've got a ticket to Chelsea Real Madrid next week, just go there. Don't worry about the day job the next day. Lose your voice. Absolutely bust it. Because we need every single decibel in our favour. We need absolutely every little thing to go perfectly. And to make the chances of that better, we need to create an atmosphere that is scary. Try our best. Can we, please? So, yeah, Chelsea 2-0 down. We've got the second leg to go. I must admit, I would love to be positive, and I think by the time the match preview goes out, I will be optimistic because there's no choice but to get a bit excited for the last meaningful game of the season. I feel sorry for Lampard, but at the same time, we should never have expected much. Been sacked from Everton already this season. To expect him to come and beat Carlo Ancelotti at the Bernebeu is crazy. But yeah, Chelsea beaten 2-0. Player ratings are out now. Let me know your thoughts. Is there any chance that we qualify? Have I missed something? Tell me in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Come on, you Blues.